Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. It's the first Monday in September, hence it's Labor Day, and I'm not laboring today. I'm going to talk fantasy baseball with you for just a little bit. I enjoyed listening back to Andrea's replay. Great job. I think everybody has got me. I'm on. I'm looking sound check from at least one or two or three of you guys. We're going to talk some baseball. I got into a fantasy football draft this weekend on Saturday, and it kind of went like this. Let me tell you, it's a 10-team league. I've got some of your favorite podcasters, Phil Chaplin, in the league with me, of course. And here's my roster. It's a 2-quarterback, half-point PPR league. Ben Roethlisberger and Jared Goff are my starting quarterbacks. I'm in love with that idea. Sam Darnold I've got as a backup. And I went for my last pick of the draft. Yeah, I picked the Redskin first-round pick, Dwayne Haskins, just to speculate and see what happens. As my my running backs, it's a 2-running back league, and the wide receiver position is a flex between wide receiver, tight end. You cannot use a running back at any of the 3 flex positions. So I have 2 running backs, and my drafts were Ezekiel Elliott, because I heard over the weekend he was signing this contract with the Cowboys, and I also picked up James Conner for the Steelers. Other running backs I picked up, Darius Geis for Washington, Eckler for San Diego. So I got pretty good at running back, right? Wide receiver flex. I went with Stephon Diggs, T.Y. Hilton, Mike Williams, all number 1 receivers on their respective teams. Backing them up, I have Jamison Crowder for the Jets, who I think is going to have a big year this year, and the now injured A.J. Green. But when he comes back, we know A.J. Green, well, he could be a really good backup wide receiver. He's supposed to be out a couple of weeks. So that's sort of a look. Already controversy in this league, guys. A trade over the weekend, and I'm the commissioner of the league. So if you're in the chat room, give me some feedback on this trade. I got to read it to you. Here we go. Let's pull it up. So league, I'm going to recent activity, and here's the trade. One team trades Melvin Gordon and Devontae Adams, and in return receives Robbie Anderson and Kirk Cousins, who, if you were listening to me and Phil Chaplin last Tuesday night, you know I am not a Kirk Cousins truther. I do not believe in Kirk Cousins. Robbie Anderson, maybe a number 1 receiver for the Jets, but we know Devontae Adams is a number 1, not only number 1, he's one of the top 3 receivers in the NFL, but Melvin Gordon may not play this year. So to look at first glance, it looks lopsided on paper. But when you consider Gordon not possibly playing like Le'Veon Bell last year, what do you think about this trade? So if you're in the chat room, again, it's Robbie Anderson and Kirk Cousins traded for Melvin Gordon and Devontae Adams. Let's talk some baseball. Looking at the standings on this, our Labor Day, and this is a call-up day. And we're going to talk about call-ups in just a few minutes, because that's really exciting. And Andrea said it, I listened to the replay, just because they're not called up on September 1 doesn't mean they won't be called up. But there's one player in particular we're going to spend some time on this morning, and if you're in the chat room, I want to hear from you. But let's talk standings first, and let's go to the senior circuit, the National League. Atlanta, 84-54 on Labor Day, 138 games in. 24 games to go. They have a 5.5 game lead over Washington. They've won 4 in a row, 8 out of 10, and they're playing at home today against the Toronto Blue Jays. Not very pitching heavy, are we? Washington in second place. Of course, they lead the wild card, and they lead the wild card more substantially today than they did when we last spoke. Washington, 5.5 games out. They've won 9 of 10. Yes, 9 of 10. And go back to one of my shows in mid to late June when the Nationals were languishing and people were talking about they may even trade Mad Max. And I told you guys then, don't give up on the Nationals. They're going to make a run. I was right. I was right. Winners of 9 of 10, winners of 4 in a row. And today, these are big games. They take on the New York Metropolitans in our nation's capital. Nationals are 77-58, 135 games in, only 27 to go. They're looking good for that wild card. The Phillies win yesterday. They beat the Mets. They're 12.5 out in the division, 70-65. We'll talk about the Phillies in a wild card posture in just a moment. In the Central Division, the Cardinals continue to lead over the Cubs. And those last 3 games of the year in St. Louis between the Cubs and the Cardinals, it could come down to that for the division. It could come down to that for a wild card spot. We'll have to see. St. Louis leads the Cubs by 3 games this morning. Milwaukee by 6 in the division. Today, the Cubs are home against Seattle. The Cardinals are home against the Giants. And Milwaukee is home against the Astros. Now, the Astros, that means, will probably be without rookie phenom Jordan Alvarez. They don't seem to play him in a non-DH park. And it's fantasy baseball playoff time, isn't it? And now if you're like me and you own Jordan Alvarez in almost every league, just look to put him on the bench. And today's a short staff of games, so unfortunately, maybe he'll pinch hit. Maybe he'll hit a home run. Who knows, Dodgers still lead the West by 18 games. They're 89-50. They have the 3rd best record now, just by a little bit, but the 3rd best record in Major League Baseball. Of course, the best record in the National League. The Dodgers today are home against the Rockies. And that's all I want to talk about in the National League West because that's all that matters. Let's take a look at the wild card. The Nationals, they lead by 4.5 games for that top wild card spot over the Cubs. And the Cubs lead the second wild card by 2.5 games over the Phillies this morning. 3 games over Milwaukee. And for good measure, let's just throw the Diamondbacks in there. They are 3.5 games out in the wild card race. We're going to talk about the Dodgers in just a moment because they got a really interesting call-up. Let's go to the American League standings where we look at the American League West. Houston, 89-49, a 10-game lead over the Swinging A's, who've lost 2 in a row. And they lost 2 in a row and one dramatically yesterday to the New York Yankees, the team with the best record in Major League Baseball on Labor Day. And I think it's interesting to note that more times than not, the team with the best record on Labor Day is the team with the best record when the season ends. More times than not. But it's really close. Astros are 89-49, Yankees are 90-48. Only 1 game separates them. So we'll have to keep our eye on who's going to get that best record. It's going to come down to the Yankees and the Astros in the American League, don't you think? Central Division, Minnesota, their lead continues to grow. We talked about last week how I thought Cleveland, and Andrea says, boo Yankees. I would expect nothing less, Andrea, because even though the Red Sox are down and out this year, I love the spirit. I love the rivalry spirit. I want you to boo the Yankees because that's what you do as a Red Sox fan, right? And so, boo the Yankees because if it were the other way around, I would be sending you a text or message saying, boo Red Sox. It just goes that way. That's what we do. There you go. So, Cleveland now 79-58, 5.5 games behind Minnesota. They lost 3 in a row. I told you last Thursday, those Tampa Bay Ray games with Cleveland were big. They were huge. Why were they huge? Because we're going to talk about that wild card in just a moment. Cleveland is 5.5 games out in the division, losers of 3 in a row. They play the White Sox at home today, while Minnesota, leader in the division, 84-52, play at Detroit today, winning at Detroit yesterday 8-3. The Yankees, well, the beat goes on in the Bronx. Did you check out that game yesterday? And Andrea sensed, yeah, we do need each other. It's like, you ever watch that cartoon on Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny, where you got the sheepdog and you got the coyote, and they go off to work in the morning, and the coyote, he tries to kill the sheep, steal them away, and the sheepdog, his job is to beat the coyote down, and then at the end of the day, they clock out and they're friends. It's kind of that way with Yankees and Red Sox fans, right? We beat each other up all during the season, but at the end of the day, we clock out and we're friends. You got to love it. That's the thing about baseball, right? Yankees lead the Rays by 10 games. Talking about that game yesterday in Oakland. Okay, so Oakland leads 4-1 late in the game. Didi Gregorius comes up in the 8th inning, a 2-run single. Yankees trail now 4-3. They go to the 9th, and it's back-to-back home runs in the bottom of the 9th. The second one by Mike Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? The Yankees rode him yesterday to victory, that's for sure. And they beat Oakland 5-4 in what was, in my opinion, the most dramatic Yankee win of the season. Wow. That's right. It was. 2 home runs in the bottom of the 9th. Are you kidding me? And that's how it ends. So, the Yankees just seem resilient. That probably wasn't the highlight of yesterday, though. The highlight of yesterday had to be a no-hitter. Justin Verlander. Everybody knows he's got a total babe for a wife, right? And so not like he hasn't got enough going on well in his life. But yesterday he spends his 3rd career no-hitter at Toronto. And don't you just know Verlander is priming up for the playoffs? Don't you just know he's looking up at the Yankees and thinking, I'm going to get you. I can just see it. What a playoff it's going to be. Wild card. It doesn't get much better than this. Tampa Bay now leading the first wild card after winning their last 4 games. They're 80-58. That means there's 24 games to go on their schedule, and they lead the first wild card by a powerful 1/2 game over Cleveland at 79-58, and they lead the second wild card by a powerful 1/2 game over Oakland, 78-58. Now, have you heard me say, never be like Lincoln and Ford Theater? You just can't turn your back on them. Because that's what you got to look at right now with one other team, and they are called, yes, Andrea, the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox are only 5 games out of the wild card. And yes, I know it's been a tough year. Chris Sale out for the season. But yesterday, David Price came back. It was sort of a bullpen game. But he pitched the first 2 innings, only gave up 1 hit, struck out 2 batters. Rafael Devers continues his renaissance season, 2 for 4. Potential league MVP, Xander Bogaerts, goes 3 for 4. He hit his 48th double yesterday. He hit his 31st home run yesterday. Clearly, in my opinion, the top shortstop in fantasy baseball 2019, Xander Bogaerts. J.D. Martinez homered yesterday. Listen to that name. 31st home run of the year. The Red Sox win. Today, Boston is playing home to the Twins. Big games. Tampa, you got to love this vacation on a holiday. They're playing home against the Orioles. The Orioles are 45-91, but they don't have the worst record in the American League. That belongs to the Tigers at 40-94. And here's something I haven't seen in a long time at this point in the season. The winning percentage of Detroit is under 300. Their winning percentage is .299. The run differential for the Orioles, minus 244. The run differential for the Tigers, minus 271. The Detroit Tigers have the worst home record in Major League Baseball at 18 wins and 48 losses. They lost to Minnesota 8-3. They play Minnesota again today. Don't you just know they're waiting for the Mize era to begin in Detroit, to bring up these minor leaguers, to get these pitchers going? Because the way it is right now, it ain't much going on in Detroit. Yesterday, the Dodgers, and here's the point of the show today. It's not going to be a long show. It's a holiday, folks, but I did want to come on and give you some things to think about. And I haven't heard anything about that football trade, so if you got anything for me on that, let me know, chat room. It's a holiday. I know a lot of chatters are out on vacation, so here we go. Yesterday, the Dodgers call up Gavin Lux. And this morning, preparing for the show, manager Roberts says, Lux starts today, Monday, September 2nd, at second base for the Dodgers. And I just can see Lux bringing some infusion of energy. And timing's everything, right? You know, just a couple days ago, Max Muncy hit by a pitch. He's on the IL. He's going to be out, they say, at least 2 weeks. Now, Muncy is not a great defender at second base. He's got a good power bat, no doubt about it. But they're going to bring Lux in. He's going to play second base. I told you last week this was going to happen. I told you on Thursday the Dodgers were going to call him up. And he's up. And he's starting today for LA. What kind of impact does a Gavin Lux bring to a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers? I've already told you they have the best record in the National League, the third best record in all of Major League Baseball. But here it is, the best team in the National League, they get better. So he's going to get at bats. He's going to start against the Rockies on Monday. He's playing second base. Look at his competition. Of course, I just said Muncy's on the IL. Enrique Hernandez. How many of you guys own Enrique Hernandez in fantasy? He's hitting 244. Muncy's silent with a small fracture in his wrist. Lux, he's batted .347 with 26 homers and 10 steals in 113 games between AA and AAA this season. He has just narrowly missed out on leading all minor league shortstops in all three slash categories for the second straight year. He was the number 2 overall pick in his year draft in 2016. He signed a signing bonus for millions of dollars. We know the Dodgers are not afraid to put rookies into the cauldron. Let's take a look. 4 years ago, Corey Seager went from making his big league debut in September, sound familiar? Gavin Lux this year, to starting in the playoffs in October. And Lux is talented enough to do the same thing. And it has been a long time. It has been 31 years since they raised a world championship flag banner in Chavez Ravine. He's a left-handed hitter. He's a contact hitter. He's added strength. He's added power. He's a career .305 hitter in the minor leagues with a .383 on-base percentage. Look for that in the majors. His speed, solid to plus grades. 52 steals in 77 minor league attempts. He's got a good arm. He's got a good glove. He's got power. Gavin Lux will be an impact player in fantasy. And if you are in your playoffs and you need or want to add an impact bat, he's your guy. At his Pacific Coast League stats, just AAA. I mean, these numbers just totally blow you away. He went up to AAA in late June. He hit safely in 16 straight games. He has a .392 batting average at AAA, a .719 slugging percentage, 13 home runs, 35 extra base hits, and 54 runs scored in just 49 games. Now, there were other call-ups. We'll just go through those briefly. Some of these impactful, some not. And I want to talk about teams that are in the playoff hunt. Astros call up Jose Urquidy, already up this year. He made 5 starts for the Astros in July. He had 24 strikeouts in 23 innings. In the minor leagues, he racked up 134 strikeouts against 21 walks. He throws in the low 90s, has a plus changeup. He's back up with Houston. The A's. Now, we know Sean Manaea pitched yesterday, coming off injury. 5 innings, shutout baseball. He walked 3, but he looked pretty good. They're going to call up Luzardo. Luzardo pitched Friday. No need to call him up over the weekend because he's not eligible to pitch until Wednesday or Thursday of this week. Look for that to happen. But they did call up Sean Murphy, a catcher, their number 3 prospect, 43 and overall in all of baseball, regarded as one of the top defensive catchers, but he can also hit for average and power from the right side of the plate. He hit .283 this year at Las Vegas. He was the 3rd round pick in 2016. The Cardinals, they've called up their 3rd rated prospect, Andrew Knizner, the catcher, Junior Fernandez, a right-handed pitcher, and Genesis Cabrera, a left-handed pitcher. Knizner will add catching depth. Fernandez and Cabrera, they've been in the big leagues this year. Cabrera is a 22-year-old left-hander. He's been used as a starter and reliever. Fernandez debuted on August 11, 7 strikeouts in 5 innings. So both of these arms, well, let's go a little bit more. He had 11 saves with a 1.52 ERA at AAA. The Cubs have called up Robel Garcia. He spent 3 years playing in Italy before signing with the Cubs in October. He was raking at AAA. Switch hitter, homered in 2 of his first 3 starts. Look for him to get some playing time in Chicago. So these are some prospects called up over the weekend. Keep your eyes out for other call-ups because they're going to happen. And it'll be interesting to see how Gavin Lux performs now that I've talked about how great he's going to be. I've already got him in the Hall of Fame, it sounds like, this morning, right? I'm not saying that. I just think he's going to be really good, really quick, and for a really long time. Let's look at our schedule of games for today, shall we? Let's see, I'm looking at the wrong page. So we got a lot of afternoon games. Rangers, Yankees from Yankee Stadium. Mike Minor and Tanaka at 1:05. Mets and Nationals, 1:05. Syndergaard and Ross. Orioles, Rays, 1:10. Wojciechowski and Yarborough from Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. Twins and Tigers are at 1:10. Comerica Park in Detroit. It's Odorizzi and Zimmerman. Look for Odorizzi to throw a gem today. And if you're doing daily fantasy, pick up Jake Odorizzi. The Blue Jays are at SunTrust Park in Atlanta taking on the Atlanta Braves. Waguespack against Soroka. What a year by Soroka. 10-3 with a 2.44 ERA. The Phillies are in Cincinnati at Great American Ballpark. It'll be Drew Smiley, 2-6 with a 6.95 ERA against DeSclafani for Cincinnati. At 2:15, the Giants are at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Beatty against Wainwright to take on the Cardinals. At 2:20, the Mariners and Cubs from the friendly confines of Wrigley Field as Justice Sheffield toes the hill for Seattle, and Kyle Hendricks will be pitching for the hometown Little Bears. Astros Brewers from Miller Park. It'll be Cole, 15-5 against Hauser from Milwaukee, and that's at 4:10. Padres D-backs at 4:10. Quantrill and Leake from Chase Field in Phoenix. At 7:10, now we get to a night game finally. At 7:10 tonight from Progressive Field in Cleveland, Detweiler and the White Sox against Savali, who has a 1.96 ERA, pitching great this year for the Cleveland Indians. And the final game of the day today, the Rockies play Chavez Ravine in Dodger Stadium against Walker Buehler and the Dodgers. Buehler's 11-3. Lambert pitching for Colorado. He's 2-5 with a 6.63 ERA. So those are our games for today. Short version this morning of a show. Longer version coming up tomorrow. For the few in the chat room, thanks for being with us this morning. It's going to be a great day tomorrow. Lenny's going to lead it off at 9. I'm coming on at 10. So be ready, okay? Be ready for some baseball. And we may talk a little football Tuesday night, me and Chaplin. Be ready for that. Everybody have a great day from Arnie and Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.